Good morning, everyone. Today we are in Ezekiel chapter 39. And as we examine chapter 39, we see here the core sentiment being the continuing message about Gog. And here in this chapter, you're going to have the defeat of Gog and the death of Gog and his army. And you're going to notice a couple of different things here. As we stated in chapter 38, we don't know specifically who Gog is or the things that are represented by the use of this particular statement. There are a lot of different theories, there are a lot of different ideas, and none of them necessarily are of such a nature that they stand out as being the one that has to be it. And so there's a lot of uncertainty as to exactly what the prophecy about Gog and the statements about Gog are specifically referring to over the course of time. But I want you to notice a couple of different passages, and I think these kind of stand at the core of those things that God is telling his people. Remember, he's talking to Israel in all of this. And he talks about the fact, verse 7, he says, "So I will make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them profane my holy name any more. Then the nations shall know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. Surely it is coming, and it shall be done, says the Lord God. This is the day of which I have spoken." And he's talking about the destruction of Gog. And the idea here is that Israel is not going to be able to defend herself. She is not going to be strong enough to defeat her enemies on her own, but God is going to take care of her. And those things are once again going to be the things that God will do in watching out for his people. And he even talks about in verses 9 through 10 about how that they will spend days and months and years going out and taking care of and burning and burying all of those things that come from the armies that will come against them. But at the same time, you come down to verse number 21, and you have the other core promise that God is making in all of this. Because in order for these things to be a threat to Israel, guess where Israel has to be? They have to be back home. They have to be back in their homeland. They have to have their place once again. And so, verse 21, he says, "I will set my glory among the nations. All the nations shall see my judgment, which I have executed, and my hand, which I have laid on them. So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord their God from that day forward. The Gentiles shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity, because they were unfaithful to me. Therefore I hid my face from them. I gave them into the hand of their enemies, and they all fell by the sword." But then verse 25, he says, "Now therefore, thus says the Lord God, now I will bring back the captives of Judah and have mercy on the whole house of Israel, and I will be jealous for my holy name." The point of all of this is that Israel is going to return. Israel is going to return from captivity. They are going to be back in their place in Israel. Now, everything's not going to be the same as it once was. But there are going to be things that are going to be the same. Among them is the fact that God is going to watch out for them. And God is going to protect them. As a matter of fact, he ends the chapter by saying in verse 29, "And I will not hide my face from them any more, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Israel, says the Lord." So chapter 39, God here is giving to Israel information to help them to see and to help them to understand that he's going to take care of them, and he's going to watch out for them, that this time in captivity is not something that is going to go on endlessly, that they will be allowed to return home. Now, we recognize historically most of them are going to choose to stay where they are, but they are going to be allowed to return home, and that remnant that returns will be able to begin rebuilding and to begin restarting lives in the land of Palestine. And so these are some of the things that are going to be discussed here in Ezekiel chapter 39. There are some other things that we could talk about as well. We could talk about the message of the sacrifices and things of that nature. But I think that these things are the core of what is being discussed in this chapter. And I hope that they're things that are beneficial to us because it's the same kind of promise that God makes to us, that He will always be with us, that He will watch out for us, and that He will be there to help us in time of need. And certainly those are things that we need to be mindful of and remember. So that's chapter 39. Next time, Lord willing, we will come back and we will begin examining Ezekiel chapter 40. Until then, have a great day.